And we are back. Episode number 8 of the WRPF podcast. I'm your host, Alex Uslar. This week, I have my friend Brianny Terry on with me. She is, all my last guests have all been in prep for the American Pro. It's crazy. Everyone in the world of powerlifting, the end of their year, even though we're in the middle of the year, is climaxing with the American Pro. So we'll talk to Brianny about that a little bit at the end. Brianny has gone from CrossFit to powerlifting, to bodybuilding, to powerlifting, to bodybuilding, back and forth. She's got a ton going on right now. She's a coach in both programming and nutrition. And if you're watching this on video, you can see how damn jacked she is. She knows what she's doing. So Brianny, thanks for coming on. I'm excited to shoot the shit and talk with you a bit.
Thanks for having me.
Hell yeah. So, like I said, I kind of just start with history. You know, how did you find powerlifting? Before we get into powerlifting today and Brianny today, take me through, your evolution, where you came from, and let's get it.
So I started working out when my dad was doing these like boot camp classes at the YMCA, and I did those with him when I was like 14 for about a year or so. And then he decided to go to CrossFit, had no idea what CrossFit was, but I'm like a total dad's girl and I wanted to do everything my dad did because he was always lifting weights and I wanted to be strong.
What did your dad grow up doing? Was it formerly powerlifting, or he just was always athletic, always working?
He was always athletic, basketball, football, that type of stuff, just cool. Totally all around. And was really big into lifting weights when he was like in his like 30s and shit like that. So then he started doing CrossFit. I decided to follow him. I did that for like 3 years or so, and I got some injuries, some shoulder injuries, as most CrossFit athletes do.
You said that was in 2014?
I started CrossFit when I was so I started working out with my dad at 14. I started CrossFit at like 16, and did that from about 16 to 19-ish or something like that. I just gotten some shoulder injuries and was kind of fucking over it. And I always in CrossFit, I sucked at the running and the aerobic stuff, but I loved staying after to lift really heavy weights. And at that time, I had zero idea what powerlifting even was. I didn't know you could do that. I just thought there was only lifting, which I was kind of starting to get into. So fast forward after the injury, I kind of quit, did some kind of basic fit chick stuff, the legs 3 days a week, barely hitting upper body. And I met a friend that was like, hey, you're pretty strong. You should try powerlifting. And I was like, what's that? And it was like squat, bench, and deadlift. I was like, okay, so let me try it. And I fell in love with it. I started powerlifting in the summer. I signed up for my first meet that December with zero prep. I was on vacation the week before. I didn't give a shit about anything. I followed some Wendler 531 basic program, and I did my first meet and fell in love with it. And now here we are 5 years later. So,
so that was 2017, right?
Yeah, I did my first meet December 2017.
I feel like I'm not sure when I first started following you on social media or when we first connected, but I feel like when I first saw your social media, you were still doing cleans or some CrossFit-y kind of stuff. So that even you didn't love CrossFit as a whole, it still kind of followed along with you, huh?
Yeah. Every once in a while, I try to see what I can do if I can clean every once in a while, but I'm so damn rigid now, it doesn't really work out. So
when you were doing CrossFit, was there any point where you're just you were way beyond everyone else, much stronger, and you realized you might have kind of been gifted for something different, or was just kind of going along with it?
Yeah, because I remember I was doing it with my dad, and he was like, let's try a bench press. And I think my first time ever bench pressing, I hit 160 for 2. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, in a CrossFit gym, you don't, especially probably 2015, 2016, that was weird.
Yeah. Exactly. They're like, what the hell are you doing? I think I overhead squatted 250 or some shit like that.
Oh, that's
I was
nuts.
Yeah. I was 20 at the time or some shit like that, or even younger. And I was like, okay, I'm getting pretty strong at this because I sucked at the running and shit like that. But any WOD with barbell cycling, I just excelled at. So
did you play any sports growing up before that? Before 14, in the gym with your dad?
I did gymnastics from till I was about 12 for a couple years. And then I did a little bit of volleyball when I was in high school and middle school. So that's about it, though.
Take me through that gymnastics. Is that something you enjoyed, or were you not as built for it? Because you're what, 5'6"?
5'5" ish.
5'5", 5'6", 6. Yeah, I feel like gymnasts, you got to be 5 foot, 5 1
Yeah.
maybe, and that's it.
Well, I was like really good at it, but I quit when I was 12. I remember the exact day I quit because I was doing a cartwheel on the balance beam. That was my worst event ever. I did a cartwheel and I landed right on my freaking crotch. And I was like, I'm done. Like, I can't do this shit anymore. Floor, I was great. Vault, I was awesome. Trampoline, I was great. But I was like, I can't do bars. I can't do balance beam. I'm never going to be good at this. So I just was like, fuck it. And then did
Yeah.
volleyball.
And then he jumped into CrossFit.
Yeah, then I jumped across it.
2014, it's like almost there's been a lot of people that I talked to, like that's kind of was their beginnings, because in 2014 it's like there wasn't much more of a household name than CrossFit. You know,
Yes.
it was everywhere. But I know me, because professionally I was already working in that industry in 2014.
Yeah.
I was, it was shocking to me. I was so stoked because I had made a career out of this, coming from being a dirtbag kid, and I loved what I was doing. But I was like, man, this is something that just like came and popped up out of nowhere. Like, how much true longevity is there to this? How much
Mhm.
true how long will this go on? Like, how long will these just random middle class people want to do this before something else comes along? And
Yeah.
it's funny because that was always something that was like a worry and like a thought in the back of my head. And when I found powerlifting in 2014 to 2015 and started a club at my gym, I was like, this is really cool. It's been around for a long time, but just to jump around a little bit, it's like, to me, it was crazy because I was like, all right, cool. This is something, along with this trend in CrossFit, some people want to do strength work. I can start a barbell club or whatever it is, but it's something that
Yeah.
had been around, forever, just like bodybuilding. But
Mhm.
where it is today, I
Crazy.
feel like powerlifting has exceeded CrossFit like exponentially.
Yeah. Like
It-
in terms of like popularity, yeah, I don't know. I wish it was more visible like CrossFit was and as marketable.
right.
But we're starting to get to that point, which is awesome with meets like, Ghost Clash, American Pro, shit like that. So it'll be really cool to see where it is even in 5 years. So yeah.
Exactly. And I wish it was something that it's like you could actually pull data and numbers on it, like to compare. Although CrossFit was more widespread known and it was more attractive to, just the middle class, normal person after working their 9 to 5, I
Mhm.
feel like, if you talk about it as a competitive thing and as a sport, the amount of people who like year to date would compete in CrossFit or in powerlifting versus like CrossFit in its prime, oh,
Mhm.
it's so surpassed. So,
Yeah.
so, 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 so surpassed.
I feel like to excel at CrossFit to like the very high level, that has to be your entire life. Like you have to work out twice a day, do all the conditioning. With powerlifting, like a majority of powerlifters who are pretty even good have regular day jobs, all that shit. So I feel like it's more accessible or more attainable to be a pretty good powerlifter than a CrossFitter.
Definitely. And that's actually an argument that I have with some people, because, I'm not going to name drop or name any names, but there's some like prominent lifters, USAPL, whatever. People were like, oh, I'm going to go over to CrossFit soon and I'm going to go and I'm going to win the CrossFit games. And it's like, but these people had never done CrossFit a day in their life and had never actually experienced it,
So
and
hard.
like you can be so athletic and gifted, but first of all, powerlifting, like you said, the rigidity that your body now goes under, sure, it can be reversed to an extent, but now you need to go through this entire discipline to just try to reverse that to get into the position that you can be, that your body can start doing these CrossFit movements. But what you said, like, I think so many people don't understand how hard those people train, because the gym that
Yeah.
I worked at for 5 years was a competitive CrossFit gym, and we took a team to the games. I went to the games in 2016, and I was
Oh
able to
wow.
coach at the games. It was really freaking cool. But
Yeah.
I did all the strength work for literally. There was like 4 coaches that we all coached the games team. I
Mhm.
had all the strength work. There was someone who handled the barbell work, the gymnastics coach, and then my old boss who wrote all the conditioning and oversaw everything and pieced it all together.
Yeah.
And those people literally they got to the gym at 8 a.m. to start like their skill work, their first strength portion, and they
Yeah.
just lived there until 6 p.m. It was insane.
That's so insane. When I figured out what I would have to do to be good at CrossFit, I was like, there's no fucking way. Like, there's no way. And then I found powerlifting. So I guess it all worked out because I got pretty good at powerlifting. So
And not to jump too far around, but I'm really excited to kind of talk to you about, because we just, we compare we just compared CrossFit to powerlifting, but I'm very excited to kind of later on in the episode compare bodybuilding to powerlifting also, because again, those are, although things are similar, they're two completely different animals, two
Yeah.
completely different animals. And honestly, it's like powerlifting is freaking easy, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that is what has grown the popularity of it and made it so easily accessible that everyone and their mother can do it, is just because
Yeah.
it's just so damn easy. You can do it anywhere, like even in Olympic lifting, because shortly
Mhm.
after CrossFit started going down, Olympic lifting was a huge fad, right? Everyone was going through
Yeah.
those phases. But that's not as easily accessible. You can't just walk into when you're on vacation in LA Fitness and start,
Exactly.
snatching, and or else, you might get kicked out. You're going to use a bar that doesn't spin, hurt your wrists, and most people won't do that. So
If you can
it's
squat, bench,
very
and deadlift
cool.
anywhere.
Exactly. The ease of
Yeah.
accessibility to it.
Yeah.
So to jump back on track, so 2017, you compete in your first meet. You said you
Mhm.
ran like a just kind of a 5-3-1 kind of deal, right? That
Yeah.
that was I feel like that was everyone's intro. Nowadays, you start powerlifting, you got to hire a coach, spend
Mhm.
$600 on gear, getting your SBD knee sleeves, all this shit. Us, we just looked up these templates of 5-3-1 and we got
Yep. And we're
stronger
like,
like that.
fuck it, let it ride. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The first program I followed was 5-3-1. And then in around 2014, I found out about the cube method, which was
Oh,
like
yep.
by Brandon Lilly. And
Yep.
that was just like my core for like a year and a half. And then of course, back then again, no one had like coaches, right? We just found these different programs. I went through a period of following Smoloff Jr. and all the Texas method, all the crazy things that you can do, which brings us obviously to today where it's much
Mm.
more knowledge and more pick and choose of things, right?
I've always wanted to run Smolov, but I'm too scared. But it's like a bucket list item. It's so stupid, but I still want to do it.
It's really easy to do for bench. If you have
Yeah.
healthy shoulders and shit like that, like running it for bench is no problem. And when they say when you run it, you're only supposed to run it for one lift, and the other lifts are supposed to go in maintenance mode. And
Mhm.
when I did it, I ran it for squat and bench simultaneously, and I
All
hit
right.
PRs on both, and it was actually the first PRs that I hit in like in 7 or 8 months. So like helped me break through a plateau when I
Yeah.
was still kind of a beginner. But it left my body so wrecked.
I
So
was like, but at what cost?
oh yeah, not fun, not fun. But okay, so back to that first meet. After that first meet, you kind of get bit by the bug. Take me through kind of your evolution of your next couple of competitions, what it was like. Were you training at a competitive gym? Were you around other power lifters? What was that like?
Yeah, so I wasn't really training at a competitive gym for my first one. I did a meet in like Oregon on the coast. I totaled like 800 or something like that, like 860. And immediately I signed up for another meet that following April where it was at Kabuki Strength. I remember it. And I hit like my first like 425 deadlift. I don't even know how much I been. It's probably around like 180 and my squat was like 350. And then took a little bit of a break and I signed up for Reebok record breakers or slingshot record breakers, whatever it was at the time. And that's when I hit my first like 500 dead in I like pretty like linearly progressed. I don't know how I did it, but I did it. Linearly progressed, hit my first like 500 deadlift, 400 squat, and 225 bench. Then after that, which was 2019, I did the Kern US Open where I hit my first world record in the deadlift I took from Christy Hawkins at like 558. And then it kind of just kept going from there. I competed at record breakers later again that year, hit the world record, but got beat by Christy. We did like our first back and forth battle, which was insane that I was doing that
Just
so
to
young.
pause you in that 2019, because now I remember the first time I think I heard of you was that 2018 Reebok slingshot record breakers that got switched to swing shot record breakers, and I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure I was there. I think that was one of the years that Steffi competed, and I
Okay.
think that's when I saw you, followed you on social media, saw some of that stuff. But and then of course 2019 U.S. Open, that was the one on the stage, right? With
Yeah, that was like my breakout year. Yeah.
crap deadlift platform that was like flippity flopping everywhere. Right.
Yeah.
And I was there at that one as well.
Yeah.
Just like to see that, like what you just described from your first meet, because I have Open Powerlifting Open in December of 2017, not just in 2017, but December of 2017 to then, April of 2019, just, less than 20 months later to break an all-time world record. That's nuts.
Yeah.
So at that point, you're like, oh, okay, Yeah, I'm good at this thing, huh?
I'm pretty good. Yeah. Yeah. It was pretty nuts because I remember I had no idea what was on the bar. Like, of course, like I knew I was possibly within shooting distance of heading to the all-time world record. And I at this point I had like no idea who anybody was. Like, of course, I knew who Steffi was and Christy was, obviously, because I was going for a record. But I remember hitting that all-time world record and I just like was laughing at the top. So I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, how? And then I was like, this is what I was meant to do. And I just kept doing it. And now here we are, fucking 50 something pounds later, hitting 600. So,
Let's go. Hell yeah.
yeah.
We're going to talk about that and like your current lifts, your current goals in a second, but take me through from your kind of perspective, women's powerlifting and how it's evolved from that period of 2017 when you kind of got involved in it. And even, knowing it of it a little bit before that, social media and powerlifting and social media wasn't as strong and prevalent at that time, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you think back to like 2016, 2015, hey, Joe. And when Joe was doing Raw Unity Meet and stuff like that, it was pretty much
Yeah.
all men that everyone was going to watch doing Raw Unity Meet in those years. And when we
Yeah.
fast forward to that 2018, 2019, and we start seeing those battles and we start seeing a lot more strong women coming into the sport. So take me through it kind of through your lens.
Oh God. I think I came into powerlifting at like the perfect time because now I feel like we're in the golden era of powerlifting. Like, yes, obviously the men are getting stronger, but the women have seemed to steal the show almost at a lot of these powerlifting meets
Yep.
because it's like you're seeing women hit, 500 plus squats, 500 plus deadlifts. Like 500 deadlift is a new 405 for women. So like being able to see all these women like embrace being strong, getting their names out there, becoming household names in powerlifting, even above some men, has been absolutely fucking incredible. Like there's no words to describe how awesome it is to see women embracing their strength and being an example for all these young women coming up. Like I coach Chelsea Annamore. She goes to your gym. She just competed in IPF Worlds and she's 17 years old and she's just embracing being so strong. And she's like, I just want to get big. I want to hit this. I want to hit this. And it's like being able to have a hand in inspiring young women to embrace that is so awesome.
Seeing her and she, just joined my gym a couple months ago, she reminds me so much of Danny Mello when Danny was around her age, a couple years
Yeah.
older, just like that, just like such happiness, just such love for it. She's just so
Yes.
excited all the time. And don't get me wrong, like us, like we've been in it a little bit longer. We still
Yeah.
are, but it's still just like I know I can say personally as a coach, just seeing that like excitement and joy,
Mhm.
it's like second to none, and even what you feel for yourself, you know. And
Exactly.
she's so, dude, she's badass.
She's a badass, dude. I love watching her lift because it's like you get these young lifters who like are so talented. She's just a genetic freak. She's just Nigerian and strong as fuck. But it's like she has no idea her true potential because she'll hit something at like a 7 and she thinks it's a 9. So it's like you don't even know how to push yet. And
Right.
it's just crazy to be able to have a hand in that sort of thing, her or other young women or whatever. It's so cool.
Well, it's really cool because again, like in the grand scheme of things, we're young, but we're
Yeah.
old compared to everyone else that's now coming in. And this new generation that's just so excited, so supportive. Because even like when we were going through it, like through our period coming up, it's like women stepping into the spotlight. It took a little while for the spotlight to be on them and evenly on everyone, And like you
Yeah.
said, now it's like it's almost a steal of the spotlight. And it's
Yeah.
really freaking cool. And it's like these younger kids, I've been running now. I ran a USAPL meet and I'm getting more and more involved in the USAPL because a lot of the younger kids will tend to lean towards that because they have collegiate championships. It's all the colleges have their own teams here in Florida. Florida's like the second biggest state for the USAPL, second to Texas. And just seeing like the excitement of like this new generation of kids, it's really cool. And it's very different than just a couple years ago when we were coming up in it.
Yeah, because they have so many more resources. Like we were just kind of like figuring it out. They know what to do for nutrition. They know what to do when it comes to supplementation. Like you have, 180 pound, 160-pound dudes hitting 700 to 800-pound deadlifts. You have, 17-year-old chicks hitting almost 500 pounds on squat. It's like the ceiling is so much higher from them because the sport is just advancing. And it's like, what's going to happen in 5 years? It's like these kids are going to surpass my records, or, it's like we think that we're at the fucking pinnacle, but it's so unknown and it's so cool.
So, and that's a perfect segue talking about you as a lifter. So guys, if you don't know some of Brianny's accomplishments, she's top 10 all-time female in sleeves, regardless of weight class. One of only 9 women to ever hit a 600-pound dots, again, raw, just in knee sleeves.
I had no
Has
idea
had
about that.
all-time world records multiple times, battled back and forth, still continuing to battle back and forth in them because she's still, in the grand scheme of things, a youngin'. She's not 20, she's 26. She's not over the hill like Joe already being over 30. Now we're pushing it. But Joe's still doing this thing. He's still doing it. But so kind of take me through that and your athletic approach, because something I like to ask people who have been in the industry, a couple years now already. We go through those periods of burnout where it's a little bit less exciting, the ups and downs, the injuries, taking a little bit of a break from competing, getting back to competing, the all-time world records, and then more than anything, being a business owner and doing it night and day for other people and keeping the passion for yourself. So mentally, it's like, where have you kind of been the last year or two in powerlifting with the pressure of getting back your all-time world records and knowing all the new competition coming out?
That's a loaded question.
A loaded question. I know.
So I think in the last 2 years, more specifically the last year, I think I've matured a lot as an athlete. I competed this past December in powerlifting, but before that, the 2022 showdown, I think it was, I had my first failure. Granted, I still got second overall, and I went 5 for 9. I just had a shitty performance to my standards. And that was really a really big slap in the face for me. I know from the outside looking in, it might look like, you got second, this is fucking awesome. But really, I fell short in a lot of expectations, and it took me a long time to kind of sit back and reflect. And I was just burning too bright and hot. And I think a lot of young lifters, with social media and the sponsorships and the attention, we get so caught up in trying to always be relevant, always be doing something. And it's like, why? I'm so young in the sport. I have so much time. I look at women like Samantha Rice or Christy Hawkins, who's in her 40s, who has been doing this a long time. And it's like, I don't need to do everything right now.
And it's not a sprint.
It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. I want to be remembered for having longevity in the sport, for giving back to the sport, for helping others to the sport, not just being a selfish athlete who just puts up performance after performance. And that's fine, whoever wants to do that. But I think that I can offer a lot more than just being a competitor. And so I took a step back. I, turned it down a little bit on the powerlifting. I decided I need a break from this because it was starting to be not fun for me. And this is what I do. So it's like, why would I, at the end of the day, regardless of sponsorships or whatever the fuck, this is still a hobby. I have a life outside of this. And so I needed to tend to some, my relationship was kind of going in the shitter because I was always fucking competing. I was, the PEDs, all that stuff. I was just not in a good place mentally. I wasn't giving my clients my 100%. And so I decided to just take a step back. And I think that's probably one of the best things for me, because even through taking a step back of not competing, going into another sport such as bodybuilding, it gave me more of an appreciation for powerlifting and my ability of what I can do. And so now I'm really excited to come back at 100% Brie and see what I can do. And now that everything in my life is pretty much in order, as much as it can be for being 26 and being a little shithead still, I just think I'm ready to come back into what I know I can do and show everybody what I can do. And seeing all the women now that are doing this, like Denise Herber, I get to go head to head with her in October. We're 2.5 kilos away in bench and in deadlift. She's one of my biggest head-to-head competitions there. So it's there's still a little bit of ego in me that's these bitches aren't gonna fucking take shit for me, from me. So it's cool to have that competition again, where it's not just me and Christy, or there's more head to head. There's more like I have to prove myself more, which gives a little bit of fire under my ass. So yeah.
And not much a better platform to do it on when you're able to go head to head, face everyone. You've had the time to kind of learn and mature and do it like under the best possible circumstances, right?
Yeah. And it's like even the way I approach competition, like before I would compete, like every time before I did Ashley's meet, the PPC finals back in December, I was a fucking head case. I would cry before the competition, like I don't deserve to be here. What am I doing? This last time I felt so zen and at peace because it's like I've already hit 3 all-time world records. I am top 10 and whatever. There's nothing for me to prove. And this was the first time that I was able to objectively look at my training and objectively look at my attempts and be able to pick my own numbers rather than just being like, I don't want to know anything. And it's really freeing. And I feel like I can finally really enjoy powerlifting and not be so anxious about it.
And with just everything that you said, it's like it's a huge learning period. And in your 20s are a huge pivotal point in your life. You know, when you're a teenager, you know, anything goes. And like these young kids coming up, they have it easy. They're living with their parents, they're still in school, they don't really know what the next steps are, and they're able to dedicate a lot of time and emotion and energy into powerlifting. But when you pivot into your 20s, and you have, you know, these personal relationships to manage, bills, finances, you know, all these things combined into one. It's like the points where it's like you either get greedy and you only focus on yourself and as a lifter, so to speak, and you
Yeah,
know, you push out a lot of people around you and you kind of continue barrel rolling down there, or you were able to take that step back, fix all those things, get all those ducks in a row, and attack the year as a new, better Bree. And I think that's super, super important. Sometimes it takes people, like you said, you're only 26. Sometimes it
yeah,
takes people to their damn in their 30s to figure that kind of stuff out. So
yeah.
it's good that, you know, you figured it out when you did, and finding the balance. Because again, powerlifting, it's a hobby and it's something that, you know, where it's a privilege to do, and it's
Mhm.
easy to balance, and you don't need to be fully selfish in order to do it at a high level.
Exactly.
And to circle back around to the first thing we talked about, if you want to do CrossFit at a high level, you have to be
Yeah,
selfish as shit. You know,
yeah.
there is no job, there is no athletes, there is no nothing, you know. So we're lucky that we have a career that, you know, you're able to balance and do both. And so yeah, I liked that. I liked that to my very long-winded question.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just our career as athletes is never promised. We never know how long it's going to be. I could walk into the gym tomorrow and blow both my quads apart. Like you never know what's going to happen. So why would I just focus on this one thing when I still have to be a person after my competitive career? Like I want to buy a house. I want to get married eventually. Like it's like all that stuff has to be in order for me to even feel good about putting my 100% in training. So got
Yeah.
to prioritize that first.
So let's like we just talked about, kind of the last year or so, you've taken a back seat from powerlifting. That takes us into you venturing into another sport, right? You started
Yeah.
dabbling in the bodybuilding,
Mhm.
right? So tell me, what is bodybuilding and what did you do?
My first year of bodybuilding was very, very hard. It was a slap in the face because it's a very selfish sport, even more so than powerlifting. And it's harder than powerlifting, not from a training standpoint, but not even from like well, I guess the diet is pretty hard as you get kind of into the weeks and as you get closer out, but the mental game is far beyond anything that I have ever experienced in my entire life. You have to do everything right. You always have to be prepared. You always have to do the right thing when no one is looking, or else, because it's like there's so much more pressure. Because it's like, I'm 4 weeks out from a powerlifting meet. If I want to go have a beer or have a burger, I can do that. With bodybuilding, you can't even have a fucking extra piece of chicken because it's like this is all about your physique and you cannot go on stage looking like shit. If you fuck up at a meet, there's always some excuse for your performance or some reason or whatever. You just didn't show up that day. But with bodybuilding, there is so much more pressure. But I feel like it's made me a better athlete, and I feel like it's made me a better power lifter because it caused me to mature at a much faster rate than I think I ever would have done if I would have just done powerlifting. Like I think I still would have been, kind of a shithead doing whatever. But it's taught me so much more discipline, not even just being an athlete, but in my everyday life, which I'm super thankful of. And it's something that I see myself. I don't know how much I like it compared to powerlifting per se. I just think because I was burning so bright and hot with powerlifting, it almost felt like an escape because it was something different. And some people might be like, well, an escape, why don't you just take an off season? I'm kind of one of those people where I feel like a fucking loser if I don't have the next goal. So I always have to have something set up, which is why I had the American Pro right after this bodybuilding show. I always have to be working towards the next thing because it's just I like being an athlete and something I love and something I'm really passionate about. So
That's cool. Yeah. And I can see how it's a segue. And regarding the training and stuff, you were able to do that. And last year, it was a pretty quick transition from when you were doing bodybuilding into doing that first PPC meet, right? Like
yeah,
I didn't even hear you talked about on the roster. I feel like it was kind of like a last minute thing where you got into it, right?
Yeah, I signed up like 2 weeks out.
Okay.
Like,
Well, there you go.
I'd kind of been getting pretty strong. We were kind of seeing where I was at. And I was like, well, there's this meet in like 4 weeks. Why don't I just do that? And then I saw that Christy signed up and I was like, oh, fuck yeah, I want to do it. I want to go against her again. And I did that at a different weight class, but knew that there was going to be some pretty good competition there. And I just wanted to go and have fun. And that's why there was no kind of pressure and why I think I did so well because I went 9 for 9 for the first time ever.
And PR'd all around.
Yeah, and PR'd pretty much all around except for bench. I was like 2.5 kilos off my best bench, which I kind of expected. But to be able to PR on squat, which is one of the lifts that I'm most scared about, just because I feel like every time I squat, I just imagine something tearing off for some reason. Bench is boring and whatever. Deadlifts are obviously my bread and butter. I'm just a human forklift, and that's just I'm a deadlift specialist. So being able to do that in like a 4-week total prep was pretty neat. I think I might do the shorter preps from now on because that seems to be the secret.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy knowing that. And it's like something you said where it's like people are like, oh, okay, you're getting burned out at powerlifting. Just go take a long off season. Well, I mean, what do a lot of powerlifters do in off season? They reduce their intensity greatly. They're not training at near maximal weights. They're now doing higher volume training, controlling rest periods, maybe getting healthier, adding maybe cardio or eating well. So you doing what you did is essentially a long off season, but to the extreme where it's now classified as this other sport, right?
Yeah. I think that helps me because having I always have, whether I'm competing or not, there's always some sort of goal for a training block for a period of time, whether it's 1 month, 3 months or whatever. And I think that's why I've become so successful because it's like, yes, I do have fun. I do go out and have a drink with my boyfriend and go hang out with friends or whatever. But for the most part, I am pretty on like 95% of the year. I enjoy eating the same things. I enjoy going to the gym. I enjoy training really intensely. I enjoy staying in shape. It's just who I am and how I've built my life around fitness. I'm a coach, this is my entire life. And I like to be an example for the people who look up to me, which is fucking crazy to even say, because it's so weird that people would be inspired by me because I feel like I'm just doing what I like to do, or my clients. And, it's like leading from the front and it's something that I enjoy doing. So I think that's why I'm so successful because I'm just on my shit year round, regardless.
So taking us into this year, looking at you again, guys, look at those cap delts. You are currently on your shit right now, right? So
Very on my shit.
You're in prep for a bodybuilding show as we speak about powerlifting right now.
Yep. Yeah, I'm doing USA's in 47 days. So 40? A little 7 weeks.
Who's counting? How many hours is that, huh?
I have like a countdown because it gives me more of a sense of urgency if I say it in days. Because I'm like, that's not a lot of time versus weeks. It's like, 6 weeks is quite a bit of time, but it's really not. So getting into the hard part, I really got kicked in the dick this past week because like all of my proteins got switched from like chicken thighs and like 90-10 beef to all chicken breast. My fats are super low. My carbs are super low. There's some like no carbs on certain training days. Like it fucking sucks, but you look sick. And it's, again, teaching me a lot of discipline. And
that's funny. When I messaged you, you're like, oh yeah, this will be fun. That was why.
Yeah. It's like my brain cognition is slowly declining every single day. There's like times where I talk to Joe and he's like, what do you say? And what do you say? And I'm like, I don't know what I just said. And he's like, what? I'm like, dude, I'm not responsible for any stupid shit I say for the next 6 weeks because I can't remember anything. Like,
So the
it's,
next 47 days, this is what
yeah.
your life is consumed by, focusing on bodybuilding, focusing on this show, and then you
Mhm.
have a turnaround, but you have a longer turnaround than you previously did to get into the
Yes.
American Pro.
Yeah. I've got 13 weeks from when I step off stage to when I step on the platform, which is crazy because I've competed in sleeves my last 4 competitions. I think the last time I competed in wraps was Record Breakers, which was in 2018. My first time in wraps. Oh no, actually the 2019 Cornelius Open is the last time I competed in wraps. And yeah, it's very stupid because I have no idea how to do wraps, but I decided to sign up for the 165s. Last time I competed in 181s. Last 2 times I competed in 181s. So it's kind of like a little bit strategic, even though it might sound stupid, because it's going to cause me to stay on my reverse diet harder so that I don't get above 10 pounds from my weight class. Makes the cut easier all around. So there's like a method to the madness, as crazy as it sounds.
Yeah, nutrition is not my forte, but it's something that interests me. And that was something I was very interested in because, these next 47 days, you're going to be depleting the living hell out of yourself, right? You're going to come off stage, and there's very much my understanding. I don't know the terminology, but there's sometimes can be a big rebound for
Mm-hmm.
bodybuilders after a competition where they go
Mm-hmm.
back to eating those normal foods. Their body blows up, it expands, it bloats. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like you have your mad scientist of a coach, right? You have Jake
Yes.
who's going to be handling all that to figure
Yeah,
out how to fill you back up, but not overfill you, right?
exactly. Yeah,
Is
that's going to
is
be.
is bodybuilding in a weight class?
No, it's not.
Okay.
I just have to go on as peeled as I can possibly go, which is going to be very interesting because he says I only have about 7 more pounds of fat to lose, and I still weigh 170 right now. I woke up at
Okay.
170 this morning. So it's like, I don't know what I'm going to be on stage, probably mid 160s, low 160s, which is going to be insane.
What were you in your first bodybuilding show last year? What did you weigh?
I was 155.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So yeah, I
You've
put on,
built a lot of new muscle since then.
yeah, yeah, which is pretty insane. I don't know how. I don't know. Well, obviously I know how. I'm the one who did the fucking work.
Right.
But
I
it's
can only imagine how exciting knowing all this, because a lot of this it's like you said, it's science, right? It's
yes.
data gathering, and this is
Mhm.
all plain, concise data that shows, now when you can maximize that muscle, what you're going to bring to the American Pro can be really scary. People looking at what
Yeah.
you did in wraps 3 years ago, it's like that's insignificant. Looking at what you did on 4 weeks of even prep, a 9-for-9 meet, is insignificant in the grand scheme of things, right?
Mhm. Exactly. And so it's like, I think last time at the Ghost Class, Janice hit like 544. So it's like I gotta hit something in that range or higher in order to
Keep
compete
up.
with her. Yeah, so it's gonna be interesting. Deadlift, I'll always get that back. That's like riding bike for me. Bench, we'll see what happens. I think I can put on some good numbers, hopefully. I'm still benching like 255 right now, pretty easily. So as long as I kind of maintain some strength in the upper body, I think I'll do pretty damn good. So
In these bodybuilding phases, like how you're currently training, being 6 weeks out, and how you trained last year, do you still incorporate a lot of the compounds, or is it kind of just minimal?
yeah, I still incorporate the compounds. We've had to kind of adjust it because there was a week, like 2 weeks ago, where I hit like some 455 singles on deadlift and like some 255 doubles on bench. And that took a lot out of me. I was fucked up for like 5 days after. So it's kind of like knowing when to put in, different movements or how heavy they can be. So it's like if I do a heavy deadlift one week, I can't do anything heavy for the next week. And I got to switch to like a squat the next week or a bench the next week. So we've been kind of maintaining a good relative amount of strength. Not too long ago, I hit 365 on squat pretty easily at like RPE 6. Um, so it's kind of sprinkling in some movements to keep the movement fresh, keep the motor cortex going and stuff like that, but not really pushing anything yet, which sucks. But I get it for the sake of risking injury and stuff like that. So
Definitely.
I feel confident in my technique enough that I'll get it back.
So, me not knowing a whole lot of what goes into bodybuilding, and probably not a lot of our listeners, what would you say kind of the bread and butter movements are for you? Are they constantly varying? Are you running little cycles of certain movements and ramping them up in any way, or just increasing reps before it's rotated out? And like, what kind of movements are you doing that you feel your body grows and responds well to?
So my training right now has completely switched. I'm not doing traditional bodybuilding training at all. My training actually resembles more of CrossFit than anything, because I'm getting to a point where for the division I'm doing women's physique, and then I'm also jumping into women's bodybuilding because I'm big enough for it, where I don't really need to add as much muscle at the moment. It's more of getting my conditioning down. So, of course, I'm doing trisets and high reps of like arms and shoulders because that's something that I think I really need to bring up. Legs, I've pretty much got covered. Back, pretty much got covered. So it's just a lot of bike sprints, a lot of circuits, where it's like pull up, sled push, burpees, things like that. Like lots of like high intensity interval training. Before that, I would say the best things that I like to do to grow certain areas for like my back would be any sort of row variation. I love any rowing, seated cable row, single arm dumbbell row, shit like that, where I can throw heavy weight. For chest, I really like doing really heavy dumbbell presses for not a lot of reps, probably like in the 5 sets of 6 range, so I can really push it. Legs, leg press, hack squat. I always love doing those. So, and then apart from squat, bench, and deadlifts. But if we're talking about strictly accessories, those are like my favorites.
That's really interesting, kind of talking about how you're training right now, and not at all what I expected, but it makes
Yeah.
complete sense.
Yeah.
So it's like if you were wanting to, like, because you said you're doing women's physique with bodybuilding, but like if you were, I'm just going to assume, wanting to jump into the women's bodybuilding world head first, not caring about weight classes and turning over to powerlifting,
Yeah.
you would be much heavier. You'd be training a lot more machine-based traditional
Yep.
bodybuilding stuff. But the reason why you're not doing that is because then that's going to take you away from being able to revert back into powerlifting in your weight class.
Exactly. It's like I gotta still make 165. I can't be up in the 180s like I used to. I refuse to cut like 15 pounds anymore. That shit is brutal. I've done it. I remember hybrid when I competed and you were there. I had cut from like 182 to 165, and the morning of weigh-ins, I was on the Stairmaster for 2 hours trying to make weight. And I made it, and I shouldn't have fucking did as good as I did, but I did. And I was like, never again. I was in the sauna that previous night till 2 a.m. Like it
Ooh.
was, yeah,
And you
yeah.
still pulled off a performance.
Yes, I did. I still got
But 10 out of 10 would not recommend.
No, I'm never doing that again. 10 pound, like 10 to 12 pounds is the most I'll ever cut again. So it's like after the show, I can't get higher than 175. We're gonna reverse diet me really well, add food very slowly, which is gonna suck, but it's gonna pay off for my performance in the long run for the American Pro, because I still have to do that. So it's kind of like blinders on for the rest of the year. And after the American Pro, I'm gonna sit my ass down and take a long off season.
Okay, cool. So let's talk point by point about that. So going forward in the American Pro, without telling the world too many deets, do you have some kind of goals that you want to share overall, or what you're envisioning besides obviously going head to head with 2 other women for that all-time world record deadlift, right?
Yeah, I think that I can hit close to a 600 squat in reps. So I'm hoping for anything over 551, I would be absolutely fucking ecstatic with. I hit 500 in sleeves at the PPC finals with like way more left in the tank. So I know when I throw on some reps, I'll be much stronger. Bench, I'm just hoping to go 3 for 3 again and hit at least 3. My best is 292. So hoping to get over that landmark. And then I want to take the all-time world record for deadlift in the 165 class, and I want to hit 622.
Oh yeah. All right. So
Yeah.
you feel like that's probably the number that you need to hit that's going to
Yeah.
push beyond the other ladies, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think Christy has it currently at like 611 or something like that. And 622 would actually match the 181 all-time world record that Cece Holcomb currently still owns, that she has for years. So the goal would be to hit 622 at 165. The next meet I decided to do, go 181 and push it up to even higher to like 633 or something like that. But the ultimate goal, I want to hit 300 kilos on deadlift, which should be 661. That's like
Yeah.
the long-term 3 year goal. So we'll see.
Well, you gave me a lot of deets, so thank
Yeah.
you. Thank the world for that. Okay.
Yeah.
And all that, it's all very realistic. It's all very strategized, realistic, and honestly, the showdown between you three ladies it's gonna be an insane battle. It's gonna be like, one of the best for the American Pro, besides all the
Yeah.
other ones that are going on. So I'm super excited to see that. And then you kind of already answered my segue question, which was, you said you're gonna take a long off season, but then you foresee yourself going and trying to push it at that 181. Does that
Mhm.
also mean you might push yourself in bodybuilding as well?
I think what would be best for me from a mental standpoint, because I'm trying to like be a normal person and not be a fucking Tupperware turd and take all my shit everywhere with me, would be to take a long off season, start preparing for something early summer, late spring of next year, 2024.
Oh my God,
Hopefully,
that's not even that long of an off season. I thought you were like gonna take a year off, take 12
well, I'm
months to
taking
go backpack Europe and shit, dude.
well, I'm going to take a full year off bodybuilding. I'm
Okay.
not doing bodybuilding next year. I'm focusing solely on powerlifting, which gives me some wiggle room to live my life.
Okay, cool.
So hopefully do something like maybe the American Pro next year because it's going to be here in Vegas. Do it as a 181. Hopefully not have to cut any weight because I keep my body weight in check and then push that all-time world record up. So
Hell yeah.
yeah,
I like it. I
yeah,
like it. I like it.
yeah. I'm excited. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna require a lot of work, but it's what I do best. So yeah.
We got how many weeks is it till the American Pro now? Or how many days?
140 days. I have a,
140
yeah,
days.
I have like a countdown on my lock screen that I look at USA's and American Pro every single day. It
I
like
love
keeps me
it.
focused.
That's
Yeah.
that's some that's some next level of discipline.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I loved hearing this story. It's been very, very cool hearing this, getting excited for the battle coming up, learning how you got into powerlifting, all that jazz. Tell the people where they can find you if they haven't already found you, which I'm pretty sure you guys have. Let them know.
Yeah. I'm just on Instagram. I don't have any other TikToks or anything. Instagram at Brianny T. You can find me there. If you're interested in coaching, I have a link on there for my email. It's btstrengthandnutrition@gmail.com for training, nutrition, all that kind of shit. And then if you just want to say hi, go ahead and talk me up. So yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, it was awesome talking to you, Bree. I'm excited for the American Pro. I'll probably see you out in Vegas also for WRPF Nationals.
Oh,
And
sick. Yeah.
thank you guys all for tuning in. And I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the WRPF podcast.